Every time you explain yourself to a woman, a part of your mystery dies. Not because she hates words, but because she feels your need behind them. Need is the smell of emotional death. It tells her, you care more about being understood than being respected. And once she senses that, she stops listening, not with her ears, but with her instinct. Desire doesn't grow in clarity. It grows in confusion, in the sacred tension between I know him and I can to read him. The moment you try to make her understand you, you kill the gravity that made her feel you. Most men don't realize this. They think explanation equals connection. They think if they just make her see their side, everything will make sense again. But women don't fall for logic. They fall for certainty. And certainty doesn't explain itself. There's a strange paradox in attraction. When you explain, she feels safe, but not drawn. When you stay silent, she feels uncertain, but alive. Because silence in a man is not emptiness, it's density. It's the echo of a mind that doesn't need to be seen to exist. And she feels that. She feels it like gravity. She circles it. She tests it. She wants to break it and secretly hopes she can't. So remember this. The moment you try to be understood, you start disappearing, and the man who disappears loses the one thing every woman truly desires, the mystery of what he's not saying. I remember the night it happened. She wasn't angry, not really, just quiet. That kind of quiet that feels like she's already somewhere else. I asked what was wrong. She said, nothing. And because I couldn't stand that word, I kept asking. Each question made her colder. Each explanation made me smaller. I told her I'd been busy, that I cared, that she misunderstood me. I told her I didn't mean to sound distant. I told her everything I thought would fix it. And with every word, I watched the light in her eyes fade a little more. At some point, she smiled politely. That tired, merciful smile women give when they've already decided to emotionally withdraw. Then she said, you don't have to explain. I get it. But she didn't get it. What she got was that I was trying to earn her peace. And once you try to earn peace, you lose respect. I learned that night that explanations are emotional begging in disguise. They sound logical, but they smell like fear. Fear of being misjudged, fear of losing connection, fear of not being enough. And women can sense that fear faster than you can form a sentence. Men don't talk about this. They tell you to communicate more, to open up, to explain your side. But most of that advice is written by men who never felt a woman's eyes dim while they were explaining. She doesn't want your explanation. She wants your center. The quiet gravity that says, I know who I am, even when you don't understand me. But in that moment, I didn't have a center. I was orbiting her mood, trying to fix something that only existed because I'd left myself. The truth is, she wasn't testing my explanation. She was testing my presence. And I failed. I filled the silence because I thought silence meant distance. But for her, silence was a mirror. She wanted to look into it and see if I would stay still or collapse. I collapsed, with words. And once a man collapses into his need to be understood, desire quietly leaves the room. To understand this, you have to see desire not as emotion, but as tension. It's not love that attracts, it's uncertainty. The female brain evolved to seek security, but the female instinct evolved to chase gravity. The kind of man who doesn't move just because her mood does. When you explain yourself, you break that gravity. You convert tension into safety, and once she feels safe enough to predict you, she stops feeling the need to earn you. In evolutionary terms, a man's mystery was a form of status signal. Tribes followed the man whose emotions were least visible because he was the one least ruled by fear. Stillness meant power. Speech meant uncertainty. Silence was the mark of the hunter. The modern world inverted that logic. Now we're told, communicate, express, share your feelings. But in intimate polarity, the feminine doesn't fall for what is shared. She falls for what is contained, for the invisible current beneath your words. Every woman subconsciously asks one question: can this man hold himself when I can't? If your words tremble, your energy confesses before your mouth does. You can't fake calm. Your nervous system betrays you. The moment you try to explain your truth to make her stay, her body registers it as submission, and desire doesn't coexist with submission. It feeds on polarity. Polarity means opposite energies creating magnetic tension. Masculine energy expands. It holds space. It defines boundaries. Feminine energy flows. It tests. It surrenders. It reacts. When a man starts explaining, he moves from expansion to reaction. He becomes part of her current instead of the rock it crashes against. The paradox is cruel but exact. The more she means to you, the more you try to justify yourself. The more you justify, the less she feels you. The less she feels you, the colder she becomes. The colder she becomes, the more you explain. Until you are no longer a man, you're a mirror trying to convince her you still reflect something, and deep down, she despises that. Not because she's cruel, but because something in her biology whispers, this is not gravity, this is dependence. So the mechanism is simple. Desire dies the moment your words replace your silence. Because silence speaks the only language she truly trusts. Certainty without explanation. Look around. You can see this pattern in every modern relationship. The man explaining, the woman drifting. He sends the long text. Paragraphs of sincerity, logic, pain. She replies with one line, I need space. He tries again. He writes, I just want to fix this. And with every message, her pulse slows. Because she doesn't read his words, she feels his frequency. And that frequency says, I need you to agree with me so I can feel safe. Men call it communication. Women feel it as emotional pursuit. And pursuit is the opposite of polarity. When she pulls away, she isn't always rejecting you. Sometimes she's testing your stillness. She wants to see if your center can survive her distance, if your presence depends on her validation. If you chase, she confirms her suspicion. Your calm was a costume. There's a strange truth here. Women don't fall for what you reveal. They fall for what you withhold. Not because they like secrets, but because they crave certainty that doesn't demand attention. Think of two men. The first one feels tension after an argument. He can't stand silence, so he explains. He writes, I just wanted to make sure you understood me. He calls, apologizes, defends. He wants peace more than truth. And she senses that peace costs him his spine. The second man feels the same tension, but he doesn't move. He doesn't post, doesn't text, doesn't beg to be seen. He lets the silence speak for him. He goes to the gym, finishes his work, breathes, not as a strategy, but as instinct, because he knows truth doesn't need defense. Days later, she texts him first. Something small, something casual. Hey. That single word carries the energy of curiosity, the feminine trying to re-enter his gravity. Why? Because mystery creates motion. Her mind can't rest around a man who isn't predictable. Her instinct starts searching for emotional clues, trying to decode the meaning behind his stillness. She imagines his thoughts, his mood, his new life. And imagination is the birthplace of desire. When you explain, you remove her imagination. You replace mystery with data. You turn a living story into a report. And no woman ever fell in love with a report. It happens in subtle ways, too. You try to explain why you didn't reply right away. You try to justify your opinion to make it sound softer. You try to tell her how much you care, so she won't doubt it. Each act feels noble, but what she hears is, I'm afraid you will misinterpret me. Fear kills polarity. It makes you predictable. And nothing is less magnetic than a man whose emotions can be fully mapped. So every time you feel the urge to explain, pause. Remember, her attraction doesn't live in understanding you. It lives in feeling you. The quiet, grounded signal that says, I don't need you to get me. I need me to stay me. That is the paradox that keeps the spiral turning. The moment you stop trying to be understood, she starts wanting to understand you. There's a moment every man remembers, the one where his voice breaks mid-sentence, and he realizes he's not talking to her anymore. He's talking to his fear. It happened to me on a Tuesday night. Her phone was on the table face down. The silence between us felt radioactive, and I kept talking, trying to explain what I didn't even believe anymore. I told her I didn't mean to sound cold. I told her she misunderstood my tone. I told her I was just trying to be honest. But the truth is, I wasn't being honest. I was being scared. Scared of the space between us. Scared of what her eyes weren't saying. Scared of the fact that I was no longer the mystery. You can feel when a woman's soul steps back. She's still sitting there, but something in her body language becomes polite, and you start performing, trying to win back the electricity that used to be effortless. You think, if I can just explain this right, she'll understand me again. But what you're really saying is, I've lost myself, and I need you to hand me back my reflection, and she won't. Because the feminine doesn't return respect to a man who surrendered it. It can only feel what is held, not what is chased. That night when she finally left, I didn't feel anger. I felt absence. Not her absence, mine. It was like looking into a mirror and realizing the reflection was apologizing to you. The collapse doesn't come from her rejection. It comes from your recognition that every word you said trying to fix it was just another way of saying, please love me again so I can believe in myself. And once you see that, there's no unseeing it. You realize that your entire vocabulary was a disguise. Your reasoning, your logic, your calm tone. All of it built to protect one wound, the terror of not being enough. In that silence, after she closed the door, I finally heard the sound I'd been avoiding. My own breathing, heavy, slow, human. And in that rhythm, I found something sacred, the awareness that I didn't need to be explained, because the truth doesn't beg to be understood, it just exists. And the moment you stop defending it, the world rearranges around your stillness. That night, I learned something brutal. When a man's words start chasing meaning, his presence stops creating it. And once that happens, no amount of talking can bring the mystery back. But here's the paradoxical grace in the collapse. You can't regain gravity without first losing it. You have to watch yourself dissolve, the performer, the explainer, the pleaser, before the real voice returns, the one that doesn't speak to be heard, but to resonate. That was the night I buried the man who explained too much. And for the first time in years, I said nothing and felt everything. There's a point after every collapse when you either become bitter or reborn. Bitter men close their hearts and say, I'll never open up again. Reborn men learn the art of stillness. They don't close, they contain. Here's the forbidden manual no one teaches you. Attraction is not created by what you give, it's protected by what you withhold. Your energy is your currency. Every word you speak spends it. So if you talk to be validated, you're bankrupt before the sentence ends. Rule 1. Let silence do the heavy lifting. When she challenges you, when she tests you, when she turns distant, don't rush to explain. Pause. Breathe. Let her emotion fill the air without trying to rearrange it. Most men confuse silence with weakness, but silence is a boundary that says, I don't need to control this moment to survive it. That's what she feels as strength. Rule 2. Replace explanation with direction. If something needs clarity, don't justify, define. Say less, but mean more. Instead of, I didn't mean it that way, say, that wasn't my intent. One line of grounded truth carries more weight than 1,000 lines of defense, because it's not about words, It's about energy containment. Rule 3. Protect your frame from her storm. She will test your composure, not to destroy it, but to feel that it's real. Every emotional wave she throws at you is a subconscious question. Can you hold me without losing yourself? And if your answer is a calm gaze, a measured breath, and no panic, her body recognizes you as safe polarity, the kind that doesn't lecture, doesn't chase, doesn't crumble. Rule 4. Speak only from truth, not tension. Before you answer, feel your body. If your chest is tight, your words will come from fear. If your breath is deep, your words will come from authority. The difference is invisible, but she feels it instantly. Truth spoken from tension is defense. Truth spoken from calm is command. Rule 5. Never try to convince. Convincing is negotiation, and every negotiation says, my truth depends on your approval. The masculine essence doesn't sell, it reveals. It lets others decide, but never abandons its own gravity. When you live like this, something changes. You become quieter, but heavier. You start noticing that people talk differently around you. They pause. They measure their tone. Because energy respects energy, and what once looked like mystery is now just discipline, the control to stay whole inside the noise. That is the secret she feels when she looks at you and can't quite name why she's drawn to you again. It's not your looks, it's not your words, it is your stillness, the rare energy of a man who doesn't need to explain his worth, because once you master silence, you no longer speak to be understood, you speak to be felt. In the end, I realize something sacred. A man's value isn't proven through explanation, it's revealed through presence. The mystery she feels isn't manipulation, it's the reflection of a man who no longer needs to perform. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop trying to buy understanding with words, and that's when your energy becomes currency again, because attraction is not persuasion, it's resonance. And resonance happens in the quiet space between two nervous systems. The space where her chaos meets your calm, her emotion meets your gravity, her curiosity meets your silence. When a man speaks less, the world leans closer. Because silence from a grounded man is not absence, it's invitation. It invites her instinct to move, to wonder, to feel. That's what makes desire alive, the subtle uncertainty that says, he's here, but I don't fully have him. That is the paradox of masculine love. You offer warmth, but not need. You give truth, but not defense. You reveal emotion, but never beg for validation. And in that balance, the feminine finally relaxes, because she can feel that you won't collapse inside her storm. Most men spend their lives trying to be understood, but the rare man, the one women never forget, is the one who can be misunderstood and stay calm. Because his peace doesn't come from being seen, it comes from seeing himself. So from now on, when she pulls away, when she questions, when she tests, remember, you don't owe her an explanation. You owe yourself composure. Every test is not a threat, it's an opportunity to prove your gravity. And if you can hold your silence long enough, the energy shifts. She starts feeling that same strange pull again, that primal curiosity that whispers, what's behind his stillness? And that's when desire returns, not because you convinced her, but because you remembered who you are. That's the essence of masculine mystery. To stay whole in the presence of misunderstanding, to let your silence be the sermon that no words could ever deliver. Because the truth is, the more you explain yourself, the more you shrink. But when you stay silent, when you hold your truth like a candle in a dark room, the world can't help but move toward your light. When her tests feel personal, remember they're not. Next time we'll go deeper. We'll explore why women test not to hurt you, but to feel you, and how every attack is really a subconscious invitation to stand taller, to stay calmer, to become the man who doesn't flinch when love gets real. Because in the end, what she calls a test is just her way of asking, can I trust your gravity?